I stumbled upon an interesting video yesterday that talked about how we don't actually need to use crystals or tarot cards or things of that nature to explore the um, ephemeral. That in fact these are structures, power structures that we work with in order to enact a particular intention. But once we start to see that things are not what they appear to be, once we really start to recognize the view that experience and awareness are not two, then these structures, these conceptual structures that also have a particular physical form like crystals or tarot cards, they can simply be felt into. So this quality of feeling into a structure opens a breadth of different ways to be, the many different powers that we can take on as our very modeling of ourselves starts to shapeshift into how we, the structures that we overlay over ourselves in our experience. One structure that I found particularly helpful today was that of turning my internal eye downward, gazing down with my internal eye. In my culture, this is a sign of respect. This is a sign of reverence. In this case, it is the reverence to loving awareness, to that recognition of awareness. And there's also this sense of the bodhisattva's gaze. Looking at statues of bodhisattvas, we tend to see that their eyes are slightly ajar and looking down, letting in just enough light and experience without losing their center alignment. And what's interesting here is I can still be looking forward and have that downward gaze, that slight gaze down, very gentle, not forcing anything to be like this, just the internal sense of my eyes looking towards the ground, which also invokes the structures of groundedness. So when we look down with our internal eye, it also creates this opposite action effect into the top part of our skull and connection with the spine. This sense of there's a pulling action between the two, the gaze downward with this gentle lift up. And that brings back into the center channel the sense of, oh, the lower dantian is my seat of lower power. The lower dantian being the place between the upper pubis subsissus bone and the protrusion of the sacrum. Breathing into the spaciousness that is there is the lower dantian, and takes on a three-dimensional form, of course, by breathing into that. But what this does is now we're tapping into the power of the erotic, the power of fame, of power itself, the sense of there's a powerfulness here. This is often where we hide our shit. I mean, this is the, just relative to the physical organs there, this is where we shit, this is where we ejaculate, where we have our gonadic function. So it can bring up a lot of difficulty and with that, also great power. The empowerment of the feeling of being a person with such functions, and all the cultural overlays that tie into that. Also, deep empowerments from simply recognizing their spaciousness. There's this quality of being with that core feeling that gives rise to the effulgence of experience that comes with that feeling. So by gazing down, it creates this synchronous system, synchronous structuring of now being gently lifted up and then brought back into my central channel, into my lower dantian, and having that be my throne to just rest in recognition, to trust that this is what fuels my capacity to, this is an aspect that fuels my capacity to be abiding within loving awareness, to be as close to that as I possibly can, in whatever form that means to me, as this unfolding process continues to show me what that means. And of course, like all structures, this too is something that I relinquish, or put another way, let fall back into the background as it continues to whirl with great importance, especially as we've tapped into the lower dantian, and let it just let me refocus on the very processing of experience, the very spaciousness of mapping experience, and then feeling into the errors, and then remodeling my experience, and having this overlay, this processing constantly going. To trust that is happening within this background now of the seat of power is encouraging. It's encouraging me to continue to feel my heart space, to let that heart continue to just be wide open and not try. It's just this quality of safety, of openness, of spaciousness that is here. So when we think about the particular tools that we use in our day-to-day, in our moment-to-moment, and think about the feeling of them. The phrase here is, being here with you, I notice. In this case, the you is this particular structure or tool. I notice I am talking to my camera. Being here with you, I notice this feeling in my chest that is moving up and out. Being here with you, I notice a tenderness, like a sapling in the center of my chest, in the center of my body. All these things map the quality of this structure that I can just then tune into without the structure being there. Knowing the view, recognizing the view that things are not what they appear to be. Experience and awareness are not two. Nothing is a thing. All synonyms for the view of shunyata, of emptiness, in the ways that we can express it in today's language. So by getting to know my psychosomatic landscape, and also deepening into the recognition that experience and awareness are not two, the structures and the functions are not separate, then I am afforded the very capacity to don on different clothing, different thought containers that afford various ways to see the world. And this feels relevant, this feels juicy, this feels like it wants to be shared and expressed and experienced fundamentally. And then also felt to the point of when it needs to be released back into the background, back into nothingness. But I'm not here to stipulate the very nature of reality. All I can say is the view that nothing is as it appears to be. Nothing is a thing. So, this noting practice builds me a deepening into my psychosomatic landscape, feeling into what is available to me right now to just be with and see. And then recognize, oh, there are questions I can ask from that. Just like if these structures were people now, if this structure of the eye gazing down was a person, it would look like loving awareness as a bodhisattva, abiding with pleasure and effortlessness, kind of like seated with the knee up like this, and a mudra with the hand shoulder down, and just gazing upon the world without getting lost in anything, because the eye continues to show respect and reverence to all things without ever needing to actually do that. The doer is not constructed, it's just happening. And I ask this deity of loving awareness, what can I do to share more of you with the world? And the deity immediately responds, continue to see the importance of this eye gazing down. Continue to know that it does not need to be a state of gazing down, but rather a process of identifying, where does that gaze want to land right now? Does it want to be extremely tight to me? And then explore why. Does it want to be far out, looking all around? Why? To get curious about the things that draw me deeply into myself and the things that draw me deeply out, while recognizing that it is this lower gaze that takes on the form of heart-opening quality groundedness. And so I ask the deity here, in what ways can I make this more explainable, expressible? And immediately the deity just laughs, chuckles, and then deepens into a big bellow laugh. It's just like, people receive what they receive. I am only here to share. And I think this is where I'm really getting stuck, actually, and I appreciate this understanding. What does it mean to be a sharer, and what does it mean to be a teacher? Because when I think about being a teacher, I start to think about all these things that I have to do. The core here is have to. But as a sharer, I can simply express all these different things that are simply flowing through me. And that feels like the deepest teaching as well. It's not something to have to get right there. It's just happening. It's just happening. And even this deity falls into the background, and I trust that is there supporting me as I continue to just be with this unfolding experience without getting lost in anything, without traversing anything more than just here, right here, psychosomatically, the landscape is right here. As opposed to getting lost and needing to fix, needing to be with something that is far out there, far out there. If there's ever the reason to do that, that is telling me my eye, my internal eye is gazing upward and looking for something to heal. There's nothing that I have to do. Which is especially frustrating because my intention here in New York is to learn what it means to gather. What does it mean to gather? And by mean, I mean the very core feeling that gives rise to the structure of gathering. What is the core empowerment of gathering? Why do we gather? What structures give rise to gathering and the functions of gathering that give rise to the structures of it? The very deep powers of gathering, the sustained energy structures that afford for gathering to continue to unfold and deepen. And this reflects the deepest core empowerment, which is power itself, the view, the creative, effulgent experiencing that is none other than awake awareness, expressing itself, and then finding itself again, expressing itself, finding itself, until even that becomes just knowing. What does it mean to gather? The why of gathering, the core understanding of gathering, to then build out the how, to then build out the what, through my own data points, my own exploration of gathering here. And I'm impatient. I'm an impatient person. I want to explore and share and just do and share and experience. And I don't want to wait to gather. I just wanted to show up on my doorstep. Hey, we're here. Let's do acupressure events. Let's learn what it means to authentically contact. Let's get into this stuff. Let's learn how to facilitate together regular events of deep meaning making and heart opening experiencing to get to the root of ourselves constantly, over and over again, and see how those branches continue to express in deep, loving awareness as it provides shade onto other saplings. In this case, the metaphor is the saplings will vaporize with too much sun. And so I continue to plant seeds. I continue to learn what it means to gather, which includes patience. I continue to share.